Hi, this is Sweet June. I'm back at you, coming at you, back at you with another interesting video topic. I actually wanted to do this video a few weeks ago, but I was having some technical difficulties. I didn't want to do it on my phone. Well, I couldn't do it on my phone because I didn't have enough storage. Um, because this, what I want to talk about is at least a 20-minute video, at least. So, I was having some technical difficulties with the computer, so I had to put it on back burner. So now that I got everything up and running again, here it is. Want to hear it? Here it go. I want to talk about, remember the video, if you guys look back in my video, I did it back in June, maybe a couple of months ago. It wasn't that long ago, so you don't have to search back that far. About the angry black woman witnessing to, the title was it, Witnessing to an Angry Black Woman. That was the title. And I was at my little park. I was at the Dairy Queen, and I was at the little park across the street, the little track across the street. And I was talking about how she was angry, and she was talking about um, white people saying the N word, and she was like, "Well, I'm not. This ain't the back in the day. White people not gonna be just saying that to me, and I'm just gonna stand by and take it." And she's like, yada yada yada. So, and me and another black lady was trying to um, calm her down because she was going off, and she was also upset because um, she got her child taken away, and she was trying to do everything she could to comply with the system to get her child back. And she claimed that the caseworker that was over the case was racist. So she was angry. She was just angry with with white people that day. And so the white lady was standing there in line and said, "We're not all the same." And so she was mad. She was mad. She was very angry at white people. I mean, literally, like I titled the video, an angry black woman. And so me and this other black lady, we were trying to witness to her. We were trying to be a fine witness to her, and we was trying to calm her down, so to speak. We don't know how effective that was because she was fussing at. As you can see, if you go back and look at that video, you can see I showed her, and she was fussing at some white people over there. So she was angry. I mean, I hope the sister, everything works out for her. I hope everything works out okay for her. But she was angry. She was also, I didn't talk about that in the video. She was also angry at her apartment complex. Her apartment complex, she said that they had a big bed bug problem, and she went off. She was also expressing that too. She was upset that the apartment complex wasn't doing what they needed to do to take care of different situations. She was also upset about that too, which I didn't mention that in the video. But anyway, I decided to expand on that a little further. I decided to expand. I thought about that and I marinated on it and said, um, because I remember I said in the video that I told her that, yeah, racism makes me mad too, but what helps me is I pray. I get angry too, but I told her, I said, what helps me is I pray and I ask Jehovah God to help me with the anger. I decided to expand on that a little bit further with this video. And I said, that's interesting because um, that's a good question. How do us as black people deal with the anger of racism, experiencing racism? How do we deal with? That's a good question. How do we deal as African Americans? How do we deal with the anger? How do we handle it? How does it manifest? When we don't address the anger, how does that anger manifest? Does it manifest in different ways? Do you take it out on your own people? Do you take it out on your loved ones? Do you um, allow it to, or maybe I don't know if I should say allow it to, but do you hold it in to the point to where it's affecting you physically, mentally, and emotionally? I know a while back I did some research because I love to research about. I got to actually do some more research, but I did look it up some stuff up on Google quite a while back, and I was interested in knowing about the psychological effects of racism on Black people. I'm going to get more. I'm going to do more research about that, and when I do more research about it, I am going to come on here and I'm going to talk about my findings and let you guys what I found. No, let you go to, guys know what I found, and I'm going to discuss that. That's going to be another video. But I did look up a little bit of stuff on it quite a while back. And racism does have, believe it or not, it does have psychological effects on us Black people. It has psychological effects. It has emotional. Um, it affects us emotionally. It even affects us physically. Our life expectancy is shorter than any other race, and that's not just a coincidence. Yeah, diet plays a role, but a lot of a lot of times it has been said that the psychological trauma and the psychological stress that racism has on Black people has been known to break down our immune system, because stress does a lot to your body. Just stress in itself, any kind of stress that you may be going through, it does a lot to your body and it breaks down your body. So this um but some if you're going through like stress on your job, or I don't know, some of those that could be alleviated by just quitting your job. But some but racism is a lot more complicated than that, because we can't escape it. We can't just quit and walk away. We can't escape it. It's always there. And now it appears to be at an all-time high. Racism is at an all-time high when it's supposed to be. We're living in a time where it's supposed to be getting better. It seems to be, I'm not going to say getting worse, because no, we didn't have it worse than slavery. We didn't have it worse than the civil rights era, but it's pretty bad for 2018. For it to be 2018, it's pretty bad. And in a lot of ways, we seem to be going backwards. Instead of moving forward and things improving, race relations improving, race relations seems to be getting it for 2018. It's terrible. It's horrible. I mean, that was to be expected in the 1800s. That was to be expected in the early 1900s. That was to be expected in anything below the 1960s. That was to be expected, because that was the time period we were living in. But anything beyond 1970 now, we're supposed to be growing. Okay? We're supposed to be getting out of this, and we into the 2000s now. So come on now, we supposed to have been evolved. We're supposed to be evolved, and we live in a diverse country. They say, well, you really shouldn't call this country a melting pot, but this is a diverse country. We have so many different cultures of people here in the United States. This is such a diverse country. We have so many, and that's what I think one of the things I love about United States. It's so diverse, and I love diversity. I'm one of those people that I love diversity. I think people of different races are beautiful. I just think it's beautiful. And God created those different races of people. And they're beautiful. If we all looked the same, it would be so boring. We all look the same. So you would think as a country we would have evolved. And it's so many mixed people in the world now. Way more now than what it used to be. It's biracial families are so commonplace now that when you look at TV, you're seeing them in the commercials. I know they had a commercial a while back with a Black man, a white woman, and a little girl. It was a cereal commercial. People had a fit. People threw a fit about that commercial. But I'm like, I don't know why people are so upset, because this is pretty common. I mean, there's a lot of interracial couples in this world. There's a lot of interracial couples in this country, and it's a lot of biracial children. I mean, it's commonplace now. Um, they say 50 years from now we're all gonna look the same because of the mixing. And you know what? I think that's a beautiful thing. To be honest, to be perfectly honest, I think it's beautiful. So you would think as a country we would have evolved and we wouldn't be having these problems with race that we're having, but we continuing to revisit this. We're continuing to revisit this over and over and over. And we all know some of those factors involved in that. I'm not going to get into that. Everybody knows some factors. I can't get into that because I don't get into that. However, the fact remains is that it's here. You know, it's terrible, and it does affect black people psychologically. It does affect black people emotionally. Because I don't know about you guys, it does me. It racism really bothers me. It really makes me angry. It really it just makes me angry. And like I told the black young lady that I was witnessing to, I do have to pray about it. I do have to pray to Jehovah about it, because if I don't pray about it, I would actually really get consumed in that anger. And I found myself about a year ago, um, or a year and a half ago, or a couple years ago, I found myself getting really overwhelmed by all the images that I was seeing on the news and internet about this black man getting shot, this black man getting killed, just different things that's happening to black people in the media. And if you're not careful, that stuff will really overwhelm you. And I was getting so overwhelmed by hearing about all these things, and just and thinking about my own experiences with racism, because I've had some experiences with racism, and just it it can really overwhelm you. I mean, and a whole bunch of different ranges of feelings. I have, I can only speak for myself, but I know other black people have these feelings as well. But I know that I have a different ranges of emotions. I feel anger, I'm hurt, I'm upset. I'm like, in a lot of ways, I'm shocked. I know it shouldn't be shocking, but in a sense, it is, because I'm like, how did they, what makes them think that it's okay to treat us this way? We're human beings. It's like, I didn't ask to be born black. I'm sure that all the other black people out there didn't ask to be born black. We do not get the opportunity to choose our race. So how you gonna dog somebody out because they was born a certain race? I mean, that it just, when you really think about racism and you marinate on it, it's really not logical. It's really not. It doesn't. It's not. It doesn't really make any logical sense, because you really hating on people for something that be just like a person that's handicapped, whether it be mentally or physically, and you're mistreating them and you're hating them and you're discriminating against them. And some people do discriminate against them because of the fact that they are handicapped. They might have been born that way, but they can't help that they were born that way, and you're mistreating them. In a lot of cases that does happen. They get mistreated and discriminated against because they were born this way. It doesn't, and when it really comes down to it, it doesn't make any logical sense. Racism to me is not logical. I like to think I'm a logical thinking person. It is not logical. Doesn't make any logical sense. How are you going to hate someone because they're a color? Because we're all the same underneath. We all have the same organs, uh, because Jehovah God created us all, and we all come from the same two people, and that's Adam and Eve. So I know a couple years ago, I was really getting overwhelmed and the anger and stuff, and I was really getting angry, and um, I had to really make it a matter of prayer. As a Christian, I had to make it a matter of prayer. I had to really pray, and I had to really ask Jehovah God to really help me. I said, please help me with my anger. I said, because I was just so angry. And I didn't want to get so angry to the point to where I started, you know, looking at all white people differently. Because I never want to get to that place. I never want to get to a place to where I meet a white person and because there's a lot of white people that is in the organization, and of course they're different from the white people that's in the world. They're not the same kind of white people. They're totally different from the white people in the world. However, I don't want to look at like your average white person and go, you know. And I know there's some black people that do that, but I like to treat everybody by the content of their character. And I love people. I'm a people person and I love people. I love everybody. I try to love everyone. And so when I meet someone, I try to look at them as a person. I try to look at them as an individual person and their personality of who they are, not based on their race. And so as a black person, how do you do that? When you how do you do that when you're bombarded by all this racism going on in the world, and it makes you feel some type of way, it makes you feel angry, and that's a natural normal human emotion. It's a natural normal human response to something that is in that's unjust. How do you keep yourself from taking it out on every white person you meet? And I think you have to have the love of God in your heart. You have to have that love of God. You have to have a personal relationship with Jehovah God, and you have to have the love of God in your heart, because God is love. And you got to have that personal relationship with him, and you got to have the love, the godly love in your heart, because if you don't have that love, then because I know I've read blogs and stuff, and I've read white people or black people said that all white people were racist, and amongst some other things that I'm not going to mention on here. And right now, various black people on YouTube have this trend where, and I say it's a trend because it's not true. I don't believe it to be true, where they're saying that white people are not human and all this kind of stuff. Well, white people said the same thing about us too. Didn't white people say the same thing about us? They said that we wasn't human, right? But we know that can't be further from the truth. We're all human beings. Okay, so that's stupid to say one or the other is not human. It's stupid. It's just ignorant. And so a lot of those things are being said based on hate, because of the things that they've experienced, because of the things that's going on in the world, the black people, all the injustices towards the black people in the world, in this country, and their own personal experiences. It causes them to have an internal hatred towards white people. That's not right. And the only way that you can really reverse that, to keep yourself from developing that, is having that relationship with God and having that godly love in your heart. And then that way you will begin to learn. It's not easy. It is not easy. It's really not easy. It's easier for me because um, I'm a Christian, and I've like I said, I've always been a people person, and I love everybody. So I try to, yeah, I look at a person. I have the tendency to look at people, and I've always been the type of person that I always try to see the good. I know I worked at the other assisted living facility. We we had this lady that worked there. She was bipolar. I say she was bipolar. I'm not a psychologist, but I said she was bipolar. Um, she really was a nice person, but she just had an anger problem. When she wasn't angry, she was a nice person. I kid you not. She was a nice person when she wasn't angry, and she loved animals. And so our type of person, I have a tendency to look for the good in a person. I always look for good in people. Even if they have some bad characteristics to their personality, I always try to look. There's only a couple of people that I met that were two or three people that I met that I could not see any window of goodness there. And that's rare because most of the time I can see something good, in there somewhere. And what I picked up about this lady is that she she just had an anger problem. I think that she did have some bipolar issues, and she had a bad anger problem. But when she wasn't angry, she was a nice person. Just don't make her mad. Everybody thought that she was very outspoken, and she didn't have a filter. So everybody thought that she was really mean. Everybody just thought that she was a horrible person. And so I kept telling everybody, I said, she is not a bad person. She just has a problem with anger. And there would be times that I would try to talk to her. I would try to talk to her, and I say, because I think she was was a little OC too, OCD or whatever you call that, because if things wasn't being done the way she thought that they should be done, she would get mad. And so I told her, I talked to her, and I actually reasoned with her one day. I said, just because things are not being done a certain way that you think they should be done, doesn't mean that it's wrong. It just means that it's being done differently, you know? And so sometimes I was able to actually talk some sense into her, but there were other times where I actually butted heads with this lady. But there was other times I was actually able to talk some sense into her. And so she just had an anger problem. She just had an issue with anger, and but deep down, she wasn't really a bad person. I would not say she was a bad person. She just had an anger, and I was trying to tell everybody on the job that, and they was like, "You must be crazy. She's terrible." I said, "No, she's not really a bad person. She just has an anger problem." And so they just all they could see, they couldn't see past her problem that she was having. And so I had the ability to see the goodness in people. So I type of person, I like to look for the good in people. And it was only a few people I met where I couldn't see a window of goodness nowhere. I'm scared of them people. I'm scared of those people that I can't see a window of goodness anywhere. I'm scared of those people. I try to get as far away from them people as I can get. But most people, there's some goodness there, but you just have to look for it. We all, at the end of the day, we all have issues. I don't care what color you are. We all have issues at the end of the day. I got issues. I got my own issues because we're dust. The Bible says that we're dust. We're imperfect. And we all sinners, and we all fall short. So we're going to have, our issues, and each and every one of us going to have our issues. We're going to have our problems. I got my issues too, you know. So I used to be very quick tempered, but as time went on, and as my relationship with God grew, I learned to be slower with anger. So um, my oldest son was like, "Well, Mom, you used to crack the whip with me. You used to really crack the whip with me. When Edmund came along, it seemed like you didn't got soft. You got soft over the years." And that's why I told him. I said, "Well, I learned over time that I've learned to be slower to anger, and I learned to, when I discipline, not to do it in anger. That's the only thing. I just grew up, and I matured, and I learned how to be slower to anger, and that's something that he doesn't understand. But that's a good question. How do you? That's the question that I want to ask you guys in the comment section. How do you deal with the anger of racism? Because I know every black person out there, just about every black person out there, unless they're living under a rock or in a total state of oblivion, how do you deal with the anger of racism? How do you deal with it? Do you pray about it? Do you let it fester? Do you let it affect you mentally, emotionally? I don't like to use the word "let it" affect you, because in a lot of ways it does affect us in those ways. But how do you get a handle on it? How do you get a handle on it emotionally, mentally? How do you get a handle on all those different feelings? Tell me and let me know. Sound off in the comment section what you I want to hear from you guys. Sound off in the comment section. Let me know what you think about it. Okay? I got some more interesting video topics coming up. This is Sweet June.